What's up? My name's Ashley and today is my January wrap-up. So I read 7 books this month, and I say read because some of them I didn't actually read most of this month. I just sort of finished them. So I finished 7 books this month, and I'll just take you through it in order of when I finished them. So the first book that I finished this month was Horace Tore by Grady Hendrix. This is a satirical novel in which our main characters Amy and Basil are caught in a haunted house type IKEA store, and they have to sort of survive the night. It had a really strong start. So at the start it sort of describes the store. You get the feeling that it's like a living entity, and that was really great. I loved that so much. And while that was really great, it unfortunately didn't follow through the entire story. It was quite funny. There were some very humorous bits scattered throughout the story, and mostly at the start. But things turned super serious super quick. One second you're reading a satirical novel about working in retail, which is my life, and then it's straight up horror. There is not a funny thing in sight. It had a bit of an underwhelming ending, although I liked the promise of it being an open ending and you deciding what ends up happening to these characters. I also really enjoyed the layout of the book. So it does look like an IKEA catalogue, but when you start a new chapter, it's got a furniture feature. Those start off really normal and basic, and then they turn pretty dark as well. Overall, I did really enjoy this book. I think it was really great. It could have had a stronger ending, and if the humor had been more present all the way through, I probably would have enjoyed it a little more. I'm hovering between a 3.5 and a 4 stars for this one. I don't know quite where it fits on my scale, but in all, if you work in retail, or even if you don't, if you just like IKEA, if you like haunted house stories, I would definitely recommend giving this one a shot because I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad that this was the first one that I read this year. The second book that I finished in January was Wicked by Gregory Maguire. This is obviously the basis for the hit Broadway musical Wicked. The subtitle for this book is The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, and it is literally the life and times. This book follows Elphaba's entire life, from when she was born, through her childhood, through studying at Shiz University, and then everything that comes after that. I only read the last 120 pages of this book this year. I started it about a year ago now in February, and I read 400 pages, and then I don't know, I think it just got lost and I didn't see it again after that. Considering I didn't pick it up for about 10 months, I did actually remember a lot of what was going on. This was also a reread. I have read it before. I think I read it when I was in high school. It's a very political novel, less magic and mayhem, and it's definitely more of the political climate in Oz and how Elphaba fits into that, because she is the daughter of a politician and a minister, so she's got the political and religious and yeah. Anyway, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, and the reason I reread it is because I want to continue on with the series. There's another 3 books. The second one is called Son of a Witch. Haven't picked it up yet. I'm hoping to do that this year. I did really enjoy it. It's a very weighty book. It's got a lot of political stuff built into the world building that you have to sort of sift through. So if you're into that sort of thing, you would enjoy this. But otherwise, I just think it's a fantastic book regardless. The third book that I finished this month was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Dowdy. If you read my 2018 reading goals video, you'll know that I'm trying to read one non-fiction book every 2 months. So this was my non-fiction pick for January and February, and this is about Caitlin's year working at a crematory in the Bay Area, and sort of the lessons about life and culture and death that she learned there. I freaking loved this. Straight up, this is going on my top 10 books of the year. I loved the writing style that she used, and I liked how every anecdote, even though it was sort of unconnected, it sort of blended into a common theme. And as the book goes on, you can really tell that she's forming her own opinions on how we see death and how we grieve and how we go through that process when a loved one dies. It's got a lot of humor blended into it. She speaks very candidly about her experiences. I just think it's a really inspiring book about finding your purpose in a job that you're not even sure if it's for you. Obviously I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm so looking forward to picking up her next book, which is From Here to Eternity. The next book that I finished was The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. This is a book of poetry. It's her second collection. Overall, I like this collection a lot better than Milk and Honey. I thought it was a lot more mature, it was a lot more well planned out, and there were a lot more of them that I really connected to. That being said, I'm not like a huge poetry fan. Like, I like the poetry, but I'm not like in love with the poetry, so I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, that's just because I'm not a huge poetry person. But I did really think this one was a step up from Milk and Honey. Book number 5 this month was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This book is about a woman named Rosemary Harper, and she has just joined the crew of the Wayfarer, which is a tunneling ship with a multi-species crew, and it sort of follows them as they pick up this really lucrative tunneling job to make a bridge between a previously like unexplored culture and the rest of the Galactic Commons, and sort of like the situations they get into along the way. It's very much a character-driven story, and it's got a lot of reflections about like what it means to be human and like the meaning of family and everything like that. I just gotta tell you guys, like, this is another one that's gonna be in my top 10 book because this is just so beautiful and I fell in love with it, and I'm so glad that I picked this book up because I don't know what my life would be like if I did. It's so good! Oh, there's a pencil in my hair. Oh, look at that. The next book I read was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is another reread because the movie's coming out this year, and I just needed this book again in my life, so I really like it. I did start reading it physically, and then I went to a friend's house and I took it there, and I actually ended up lending it to a friend. So I didn't have the book on me, but I still wanted to finish it, so I listened to it on audio, which was actually a really good audiobook. It was narrated by... who was it narrated by? It was narrated by Michael Crouch. Not many of my opinions on this book have changed since I read it in 2016. I love Simon, I love the family dynamic, I love the relationships that he has with his friends. It does have a very strong like family and parental presence, which is great because not enough YA books have that healthy relationship with parents, and it's so good. This one is, as always, a 5 out of 5 stars. And pick it up if you haven't already. The movie comes out this year. It's called Love, Simon. And the last book that I finished this year is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I listened to this on audio, and it is narrated by Kathleen McCarran. Towards the end of last year, when I was sort of coming out of my reading slump, I was looking around and seeing what people were reading, and this one came up a lot, and I was like, I've never heard of this. It sort of sounds very generic, so I listened to the audiobook sample on Audible, and it was just Eleanor explaining her day, like her routine. And for some reason that got me hooked, and I was like, okay, I need to listen to this. It's about a woman named Eleanor Oliphant, and she sort of has like this like routine that she sticks to. She's very socially awkward, she doesn't realize it, she doesn't really have any friends or family, it's just her. One day she's talking to the IT guy at her work, Raymond, and they help this man who's collapsed in the street, and like from there her life sort of changes. Like she starts like interacting with people and getting friends and stuff like that. It's very much a book where you should probably go in not knowing much about it, but there is representation of PTSD and depression and anxiety. I just think it was a really well done novel. It kept me like intrigued. There's like so many things I could say about this book, but you should go and read it because it's so good. So good. So these are all the books that I finished in January. Look at them, there's 7. There's only 6 here, but I did finish 7, which is a third of what I read last year, so 5. Let me know what you read in January, and I will see you on my channel next time. Bye!